Hey folks, this is Rose from In Rose's Garden, and today I'm going to work on an anklet because, well, it's anklet season. So let's turn down and I'll show you what I've got planned and we'll get to work on it. Okay, this is what I'm working on. I've got these little Tree of Life connectors. Aren't those cute, with the double connector on either side? And I've also got these little branch connectors. So I thought, oh, you know what? Those will be cute with the Tree of Life, and we'll just add a few little green sea glass to it because they're an anklet and you want to have it sort of beachy. So to put them together, we're going to use some Softflex butterscotch in medium, and so we will get some crimps and we'll start putting this together. Got some silver crimps here. We'll open these up. Now I may have this built too big right now because, let's face it, your crimp is going to take up some space. I've got it built to about 8 inches. It's going to be a little bit longer than that. And then, of course, when we put the clasp on, it's going to go up to the 9 inches. That is more typical for a for an anklet. Now, I don't have much left on this spool, but don't worry, I have another. So we will just simply put this first one on here and clamp it down. Now once we get this clamped, we're going to actually have to cut the wire up pretty close to the clamp because we're having only one bead in here, so we're going to want to well, baby, let's go all the way up there further. I want this relatively close because I don't want it to, number one, lengthen it too much, and number two, be really in your face. So that's about how much we're going to use. Get our magical clippers out. They have a divot in the middle where you put your crimp tube right in the middle and then just squish down. And then you turn it and squish again. And you keep turning it and squishing it until you it doesn't squish anymore. And by that time you should have a nice round little bead. So we're going to cut some of this wire off. We don't need a lot, but I like a bit so that I have room to turn. So then we'll put our bead on. And then we're going to crimp it to our tree. Now the tree's connections and the little branches connections go in two different directions. So when you're crimping, you want to make sure that your crimp goes the same way. Now that sounds sort of silly, but with your wire it will turn itself if you don't get it turned so that it will stay in this one direction. And as you can see, this wire is coming out this side and pushing the other little one out. So we're going to trim this wire up a little bit here on this side. Come on, baby. Get out of my way. So there's very little of it left there. And we'll pull this one up where we want it. Now I'm not sure all three will go in here when you want to do this last bit. So we'll just have to experiment here, see if it will. Now you see the crimp, how much room the crimp is putting in there. Now, like I say, this one is not all the way up here where I want it. I think I'm going to trim this little bit of wire all the way off, right up to the crimp, so that it's not causing a problem with pulling this other one through. Go over there now all the way. There we go. Pull this a little tighter. There we go. Now we want to crimp this one. So we want to get our bead right in the middle of our crimp and push, turn, and keep crimping until we have a nice bead there. Then we'll do a pull test and go over here at the end of this bead now and trim this extra little bit of wire off. And there is our first section. Now we're going to keep doing this until we have all of the sections put into place. And so let's get doing that. So we'll get another little piece of wire out and we'll just start going down the line. So I'm going to start on this side now. And do this first crimp. Get it just a touch looser than that, but a little tighter than that. That's good. Now we're going to crimp this side. Come on, baby. There we go. Kept sliding sideways. Now this time I'm going to cut off this bit of wire because we're going from the other direction now for our next bead. So right up to the crimp and trim it off. And there's our start here. Now we'll trim some of this wire right off and put our next bead on the crimp tube. And then our little branch. Now as you can see, now the branch needs to go sideways. So we will do it, crimp it sideways. So it's going the other direction on our crimp as we go in. Instead of going up and over, we'll be going this way, through the side. So keeping it sideways. Well, if I can get it to go in. And this is one reason I don't like a short piece of wire, because I like to not have to fight with my crimps too much as I'm trying to thread them through. Now come on, go into the bead. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is take my crimping plier. I'm going to grab that little bit of tail, and we're just going to work this thing up and through. Now, if you don't want to take the effort, you could have just, to do this, you could have just crimped the bead, not put the wire through and just crimped. But I really want to have this through here. Now we'll just have, now we just need it pulled up just a touch more. There we go. Now push this over to this side all the way so we have a clear spot with the crimp. And now we'll crimp this up. Turn. And we'll keep doing the turns until we get it all the way flat to the circle. There we go. And this section is now done. So now we need to crimp this, cut this wire off right here by the bead. And there is the first few links in. And next, we're going to put the next tree in. And we're going to just continue doing this all the way down the line till we have them all done. So I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to finish these up, and then I'll be back when I get this bunch done. I've got this all done except for this very last one, which I'm going to do right now. So we just need a wee bit more wire. And you know there's not much left, so I'm just going to take the whole little bit off the spool here. And we need to put in this last branch. Come on, you, go over that. I keep thinking it's on and it's not. There we go. Now we've got that there. We will crimp this down. Test it, it's fine. So we'll cut this baby off, put in our bead, and you know I'm going to cut this very end off because it's sticky from the tape. They hold it on the spool. And I just realized I didn't get enough crimps. I need one more. So we'll get that out. And we'll put it on here. Then we need to make sure our branch is going the right direction. Through the crimp and then through the bead. Oops. Looks like this is going to be another one of those stubborn beads, which doesn't really want the second string. It's funny, some of these went on really easy and others are just giving me flack. Looks like this doesn't want to go on, so we will just crimp it right up at the bead here. Making sure that our wire is the right direction. So get that in here and crimp her right down here. I got the branches backwards. So we'll pull that back out and re-put her in. So we need to go through this way. You see it's got some more patterning on this side and it's more flat on this side, so we want to make sure that we have the more patterned side up. And since this didn't want to go through the other bead, we will try, we know that, so we're not going to try and force it to. Come on, baby. Okay, it looks like she's pretty good now. So we'll get her just a teeny touch tighter before we clamp it. So there we go. Put the crimp in the middle here and squish and turn and squish. If you're going with just regular beads, of course, you don't have to pay attention to the direction when you get there. But this one has the trees. You want them to be upright. And the branches, like I say, are have a little bit more definition on this side than that side. So here we go. Our anklet is put together. And now we have to measure it. And I'm sure it's going to be 9 inches right now from where it's sitting, but that's all right. We're just going to hook the clasp on the other side, and if it's a little longer than 9 inches, that's not that big of a deal because, well, I like my anklets a little loose rather than too tight, so that's what we're probably going to end up with, is being a little loose. So see, yeah, it's exactly 9 inches right now. But all we're going to do is put a clasp on it right now. So what we're going to need to get is a lobster claw and and some jumprings. We're going to use this type of a lobster claw jumpring, lobster claw clasp, and I've got some tiny little jumprings out. I actually have a tinier size than these, but this is pretty tiny. And we are going to put a ring on one side and the lobster on the other. Now, I'm thinking this lobster claw may, well, we'll see. Once we put it on, we'll see how well it's going to behave. Looks like it's not going to behave. It doesn't like this little jump ring, so we're going to get this size, which is the nice next size up, and see how this one will work. Come on, baby. You don't need to be curled up like that. Now see, this size will not go through the little loop on the leaf piece. So what we're going to have to do is put this piece on, which is sort of what I was afraid of. We'll close it up, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use this bigger one to hook the lobster claw on with. And we'll do the same on the other side with our other, with the jump ring this size for it to hook onto, which of course has added at least 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch to our anklet. So let's get one more of this size out. So this has it to jump onto, to clasp onto. No, we don't need this many. Then we'll just do the same, except for with this side, we're going to put the teeny lobster claw, and then we're going to hook it onto the bigger lobster claw, not lobster claw, oval jump ring, and so that the lobster claw has something to grab onto. Come on, you go in there. A lot of times the biggest problem with your tiny jump rings is that they don't want to let things into them. Oops, this one just closed this out. That's all right. We'll just open that up and put it in to the I was hoping to not have to open this one, but since that didn't want to let it go in. Okay, now that we have this on, this can now hook onto here like so, and there's our anklet all finished. Isn't that pretty? Now we have a little tree jump of anklet there. It's like so. Let's see how big it ends up being. It's about 9 1/4, which isn't a bad size. Maybe a little teeny touch over 9 1/4. But yes, that's our anklet, and I hope you enjoyed making this with me. Let's turn up and we'll talk a little more. Okay, this has been Rose from Rose's Garden, and we've been making this really pretty little tree anklet. Isn't that pretty? Now the tree will hit your ankle bone, and then the other 2 trees should be about at your heel and the top of your foot. And then the clasp, of course, will be at the back of your ankle bone. So this actually is not going to be hitting exactly right because it's a little longer on over here than over here. And we could fix that by simply putting in another jump ring. But at the present moment, it's about 9 1/4, and it fits me really comfortably. I have tried it on, but it's very nice, isn't it? It is very pretty. So anyway, this has been Rose from Rose's Garden, and we've been making an anklet. and I hope you enjoyed doing this with me. Bye-bye.